Welcome to Next Level Operators, where we spotlight the people building high-performing businesses and how they're thinking about what's next. I'm Jesse Spiegel, and today I'm joined with Aaron Taddiken, a close friend of mine and one of the most multidimensional founders I know. People know him as the guy who built Boulder's top arborist company, Taddiken Tree Company, into the market leader that they were and are. But that truly barely scratches the surface, and I learned that today in doing some research for this. Aaron's someone who doesn't just build businesses, he builds systems that have gotten him real freedom, and I've watched him combine operational rigor with adventure and creativity. He's traveled the world, done solo motorcycle expeditions across the continent, and now he's diving into the world of AI and privacy-forward technology. He didn't just integrate smart systems into his business, he developed custom tools from the ground up that have helped him build his business, scale his business, and thrive. So today we're talking with a founder who has scaled, exited, explored, and then built again. So Aaron, let's get into it. I'd be curious to start at the beginning. How did you get into the world of arboriculture in the first place? How did that evolve into Taddiken Tree Company?
Oh man. It was kind of a classic. When I was a kid, I loved climbing trees. And by the time I was 15, I took notice. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I took notice of people climbing trees around town. There's a lot of trees there. And at some point, I was like, I got to do that. That's what I want to do. I don't know why. I just wanted to climb trees.
That's awesome. Actually, that's so awesome because so many people get into the trades, right? By I don't know, necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And, in fact, you were kind of following a childhood bliss.
Exactly. That's true. Yeah, my dad, I think I was 15, I convinced my dad to buy me a chainsaw from Sears. So I had a Craftsman chainsaw, and I would go around. We had like 2 acres and half of it is wooded. So I'd walk around the woods and practice cutting trees down and using the chainsaw.
So for real young.
For real young, yeah.
Yeah. And so so you started cutting down trees, you were enthralled by trees and climbing trees, and it just took you. And then how did that evolve?
Well, once I got a driver's license, I got an old pickup truck and I started to do little jobs for friends of the family. And I had a couple of the trees are big there. And I had a couple of jobs that scared the shit out of me. I found myself up this one 6-foot diameter oak tree, and I didn't bother to get any formal training. So I just thought I would figure it out. And I just got myself in a couple of pickles that I couldn't get out of. And I was embarrassed. So I stopped doing it and I got into carpentry. I had dropped out of high school by this time. So I was looking for the thing. And I actually loved carpentry, but then I was on a roof with my boss one day and there was a tree crew next door in the trees. And I guess I was spacing out on them and watching them. And he looks at me and he's like, if you're so interested in that, then why don't you go fucking do that? And so I was like, you're right. I quit. And I went and got a job doing tree work with a professional company. And that's when I started to learn how to actually do it, that it was a real skill. And turned out it was many, many sets of skills to be an efficient, proficient arborist.
And so in advance of starting Taddiken Tree Company, your process was gathering those skills, or did you?
Yeah, I did that for a few years in Rochester. Then I moved to Austin, Texas. And I got a job climbing, and I actually I did the interview, I got hired, and then I never actually went. I never went. I was like, what? It's too hot here. I can't climb trees here. It's so fucking hot in Austin. And so I started doing fine furniture. Found a friend who was a master wood carver and furniture maker. And I really, really loved doing that. So I switched to furniture making, doing freestanding traditional joinery for the most part. And I loved the working with the wood I loved the design aspect of it. And I loved the intricacy of and exactitude of putting things together from these raw boards to these finely tuned, beautiful, smooth, sexy pieces of furniture at the end of the day. So I did that for a few years. And then when I had kids and we moved to Boulder in 2002, and I worked for a guy here in El Dorado Springs for 8 months, and I loved it. Like, I was so happy to get up every day and go to work. And then he, as amazing as he was as a furniture maker, woodworker, he was not such a great business guy. So I was making $14 an hour and he was $14,000 behind in paying me. So he'd barely paid me. And I don't know if you were here in 2002, 2003, in the spring, we had a huge snowstorm, like 3 feet in 2 days or something. And it crushed the trees. We couldn't get out of our houses and the roads were clogged up with snow. And so after a couple of days, it cleared. And as I was driving around from that and looking at all the damage and trees on houses and stuff like that, I was like, man, I could maybe make some money. So I went into work and I said, hey, Carlos, I'm going to go try to make some money. There's trees on houses everywhere. I used to do that. He looked so relieved. He's like, oh yeah, that's great. No worries at all, man. And so I got my Subaru. I got my 10-year-old climbing rope and climbing belt, chainsaw, and I just started knocking on doors over in Lower Chautauqua and landing jobs. So I was taking trees off of houses, cleaning trees up that were broken from the storm. And I kind of fell in love with it. I was like, I remember this. This is fun. And at first I got business cards made and they said tree surgeon, furniture maker. And so I was doing the tree jobs and I was keeping a little like calendar journal. Like, I'd write down the bids I had and then the jobs I was going to do for that day. I did, I don't know, like a week or two worth of tree work. And then I did a furniture cabinet job for a friend. And then I compared the numbers. And I made $8 an hour doing the furniture work. And I was making an average of $60 an hour doing the tree work. So I stopped doing furniture, which broke my heart on one hand. But on the other hand, I had young kids and I just kept going. So this was like just pre-internet. So I got newspaper ad, started calling all the other tree companies around and networking. I did some freelance, like I started climbing for other companies as I was like to fill in my days as the ads were kind of starting to work and kick in. And I'd say within a few months, I had a pretty full schedule. So I had a full-time employee within a month or two, upgraded to a truck and trailer. And by the end of that year, I bought a chipper and a chip truck, a used chipper and a chip truck. And I was starting to read business books and I just kept going. It was.
Yeah. So yeah, truly bootstrap, but it went quick.
It went quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it went quick and it grew big is the other factor. You ran that company. I didn't know this, but years, was that right?
Yeah.
You ran that company for
just over 20 years before I sold it.
Yeah. So I find that intro story of how you got there very interesting, but I also know that people listening will be especially interested in how you did what you did in terms of the success that you found and what was key to Taddiken in terms of standing out and growing to become the leading tree company in Boulder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like I said, I started getting an interest in actual business. Like, what does it take to run a business? What does it mean? What is a business? Because I could see how easy it was to get caught up in the day to day, right? Managing employees, managing jobs, getting work, and like, how do you set yourself up to create an ongoing sales pipeline? Like, how do you do all this stuff? Like, it can be quite overwhelming. And how do you price jobs to stay competitive, but to be able to comfortably pay all of the costs and still have enough money for paying yourself? At first, I've kind of put everything else first. I charged not enough. I paid employees probably too much. And I didn't think as much about logistics and long-term things like systems. So it was a couple of years of just madness, like just selling as much work as I could and doing as much work as I could and understanding how to hire people, how to manage people, how to train people, how to do it safely, how to manage customer expectations, like how to manage equipment, how to manage scheduling in an efficient way, all these things, how to decide like what to focus on. One of the things I did that I think was really exceptionally helpful was networking with anybody that was interested in talking. So other tree people, like going out to lunch with them, developing friendships, visiting each other. And at first I did it mostly locally so that it's narrow because not everybody wants to be your friend and that's a competitor. And they certainly don't want to show their secrets.
Which is what I was thinking when you said it. I'm like, what were you doing with your competitors? Like, what, like that was when you said that. I'm curious, like, what could you be sharing, gaining, benefiting? How did that support your business?
Well, I think it takes a certain getting past. At first, it was like I didn't have any business, so I wasn't threatened by anybody else. So that caused me to show up at potential competitors' doors um, with a helpful attitude. Like I said, I hired myself out as a hand. I was a very talented, efficient climber. Like I was good at tree work. So after that storm, most of the established companies were really slammed, and the smaller companies, especially, were just like they're spinning, having a hard time. Like what I noticed in this business is that never changed was it's always hard to find talented people and keep them. And within that, there's lots of nuance of what that means, right? There's there's just a lot to that. You know, there's culture fit, there's skill set, there's attitude, there's just lots of things that go into building a team that's highly effective and in my case what was important, fun and cool to be around. Like there were times where I built teams that it was just miserable. Like going to work was like, oh my god, these who am I like what did I do here? Who am I working with? Why am I doing this? I have no choice because I can't find people, like all this sort of mental baggage of thinking that the world was a certain way, and it took time and iteration um, to recognize I have agency here. Like I can hire people that I want to work with. So now, how do I do that? Like, what does that process look like? Is it the people that like I can laugh and tell jokes with, and we all do the same stuff, or is it what is the secret sauce? And so that took a long time and I would say that I never found a ultimate formula that was repeatable. But what I did do is build teams that then helped build teams, and we got better and better at hiring and maintaining and letting go of people to add to this dream team.
So company cultures, that's what I'm hearing, right? Is that
Company
company
culture.
culture was important.
It was really important to me. At the end of the day, for me, it took the pressure off of feeling like I was holding the bag for everything all the time. To be able to build a team that felt that was in alignment with me and my values and vision, and then the next level of that is that the team itself is full of people who like working with each other and have common values and are bought into the same vision and excited about it,
So the
because
sorry,
then
keep
they
going.
hire and manage people that are also in the same.
Totally. It starts with you, but then it's perpetuated. I think about that myself as we are thinking about that same scaling process. And ultimately, I agree. For me, it's very important. Like, I want to vote. I've always liked company culture
Yeah.
and also I've really not enjoyed working at certain places or with certain people. And so it is I get it as a business owner who values how you spend your time important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you've said a couple times important to me. And and that right, probably important for the company because then you were happy to focus on the company and happy to go to work and happy to do the work to scale the company. Yeah, the original question was what are the keys that led to you creating the mammoth company that you did, the successful company you did? And so your answer in one was company culture. Yeah, was one thing. Was there other things that you would equate to really helping you become the company that you were able to then sell?
Hmm. Yeah. The other thing that was powerful for us was a relationship focus. So rather than I made a decision early on, like I'm relational. So I want to actually be engaged with the people that I'm working for, not just like trying to get the next job and it wasn't transactional for me. It felt very much like I'm building hopefully lifetime relationships with customers. They've got trees, they're going to move from this house to that house. When they leave that property, we'd love to continue to work on the trees, gotten to know the trees. When they move to a new property, we'd love for them to think about us and want us on their new property. And this wasn't just about, I mean, it's nice that the byproduct of that is that, yeah, then you get repeat business and you get loyalty. But also you get a very different quality of experience when somebody calls the company and when you go out and talk to them and when you're working on their trees. It's like it's a sweeter it's a sweeter way to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what you're saying is that because it was genuine, it had the positive impact, but that ultimately it started with the fact that it was a genuine interaction, and the result is customer loyalty.
Yes, it's a nice extra.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's great. I think that's great food for thought. And actually, when I trained in sales, that's something that I always try and train, which is like I don't have a secret sauce to sales. I have what I'm good at sales is just like connecting with people and talking to people like people and building relationships with them. And ultimately that's all like I'm not selling you. I'm just yeah. So
We're connecting and I'm telling you the truth. And
and when you do
what ends
that,
up
people
happening is,
people can tell.
yeah, people can tell and you talk, 10 to 50% about the actual reason that you're there. And the rest of it's like swapping stories and sharing stuff. And yeah, it's awesome. And so then hiring for like, then as I recognized the need to hire people to start selling also, so that I wasn't the only one selling jobs. That was the first like, oh, I've got to find people that can do what I do. And they're not just trying to do the transactional thing. And so that took some time to recognize and like to see like the sort of customers that come in when somebody that doesn't have that shared value, those shared values about relationship is selling for you, then like different jobs are coming in and like problems are happening. And it's really amazing these different fits. Cause when I say that for me, for us, for that company, the relational model was effective and really powerful for us. That's not true. That's not going to be true for everybody, right? Some companies are like they want to be in and out. They want to be the fastest. They want to be the cheapest. They want to be transactional, and that works for them. There's nothing wrong with that for me. And then the people that are attracted to working with me and the culture that we built, that wouldn't have worked, right? Because what happened out of that is a maturity of customer profiling and knowing who our customer was. And so we had essentially three categories of customer: people that absolutely loved their trees and cost wasn't an issue, and then we had people who cared about trees and made it a priority, but they, at the end of the day, they didn't care that much. And then we had people that were like, "Oh my god, the trees, like it's here, it's kind of a nuisance. I've got to pay to take care of it." So like break customers into those buckets, and then recognize when the customer that doesn't really care about their trees and it's transactional and they're trying to just take care of their trees so that they're safe, so that they're not a nuisance. That's not a kind of customer. And to let go of the pressure of trying to serve them, it serves them and it serves us because everything from that point flows through our process and they already aren't a fit in our process. Learning to actually identify customers from the first phone call or even before that, like in our advertising, in our marketing, in our languaging, in our imagery, like showing what's important to us. there's like these unconscious and semi-conscious things that customers can see, and they don't even bother calling us. So it's like all this kind of magic flows out of that, all this efficiency.
Can't stop myself from grinning. And there's a podcast, so some people are just going to listen. But yeah, it just makes me smile so much. And it makes sense that we're friends and that I like you as much as I do, because we'd work really well together. Because that's, and I agree. It's not the only business model. There are lots of business models, but that is my business model also. It's like a lot of that relationship stuff and authentic connection and getting to know the people and really enjoying. Me, honestly, I'm just grinning because you're just speaking my language here.
Yeah, nice.
I love it. That's good business. Yeah, that's cool. So it's funny. I've asked you about what was key, and you answered in two ways that were not what I expected you to say. Because yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it. Those are important things, and from the outside looking in, it looked to me like you had a really well-oiled machine. And in doing my research, I found out about these softwares and systems that you implemented, and talking about with you today, I've gotten to see how your brain works. And so I thought you would go right to process and systems, and you didn't. You went to human kind of things. But I am
Who creates process and systems?
who creates them? Well, I mean, I would think that you as the owner create those processes and systems, but
Yeah,
then your
humans.
organization has to, carry them out, implement them, adopt
Yeah,
them.
humans create process and systems. Which humans are doing that matters. Like there's like the foundational stuff, because there's something I'm ignoring that also played a huge key role in that business, which was an absolute passion for the technical side of what we did. Like when you first asked me about the business, I talked about being a kid and really fucking into it. Like I just was into it. That's all I wanted to do was climb trees. And then all the tools, like part of my attraction, I think, when I was a teenager, is I was like, oh man, that dude's in a tree with a chainsaw. Look at those trucks, and wow, that looks like fucking fun. And and then as you got into that, like as I got into that, recognizing like, oh, you have to care for these tools. These aren't just magic things that are always working in top condition. Like you have to put the right gas in them and the right oil and the right bar on them and maintain that bar and the chain. And you've got to learn how to sharpen a chain. And you don't do it right, that thing will not cut, or it'll cut and you'll just be frustrated because it's getting hot and it's taking forever. So there's like all this stuff that really, really got me excited, like learning how to care for tools and sharpen and change chipper blades and work on engines and do all the things that we did with our climbing equipment, and then learn how that works, and then learn how it like augments my ability to fly around a tree by using my ropes and limb walking, and like just like that part of it was also amazing to me. And so as I started to hire employees, I always, like, one of the reasons climbers would be attracted to our company is because we gave everybody everything they wanted. What makes your job better? How do you express yourself in the tree? Like, how do you maximize your game in the tree? Right. And the right tools are important. I mean, there's a balance, but hiring for passion and hiring people that really wanted to be doing what we were doing, it was another fundamental thing. Because I did. Like, I fucking loved it until I didn't, but I loved it for a long time.
Yeah. Will you talk a little bit more about these? I've watched you dive into technology recently, and I didn't know how much you had dived into it in your own company at a pretty high level. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit more about what you did with how did you scale, right? Like, you put these technologies in. Was that the key to your scaling? Was
It's a
how
part
did
of it.
yeah, part of it?
Yeah, for sure. So when I started the business in 2003. When Google Maps came out, I was mesmerized. I was like, holy shit, look at this. You can see where people's trees are. You can see street view. What is going on? And I was really dissatisfied with the software that was available to the arborist. And I was really disappointed with the customer service. I was like, like I had this one company that we'd have like the software would crash and I'd call up. And one time I called up and somebody screaming at me that it's my fault because of my network or something. I was like, what are you talking about? Why are you yelling at me? I just can't get I'm trying to get my guys out and all the stuff's gone. Like, what are you doing? And so when that happened, I'm like, and I had been thinking about like, how could you make a software that used the maps, like these digital maps, this is quite a while ago now. So it was novel and like, wow. And so I was always thinking about it. And so when that happened, I was like, fuck these people. I'm going to make my own fucking software. So I started like trying to learn to code at night. I was not good at it. Then I connected with a high school friend who was a programmer on Facebook, and I hired him to start like coding stuff. He worked on it for a few months. Then he died, and I didn't really have the code. I was like, shit, what do I do? Eventually, I've been blabbering about it to everybody that would listen about my idea. And finally, a friend of mine was like, I want to invest in this. And I was like, come again? He's like, I want to invest in it. And I was like, okay. So we hired a Ukrainian development company, and we went over to Ukraine to make sure they were legit. This is a year before the takeover of Crimea. So we were in Crimea visiting this company, and they were legit. We had a great time in Ukraine. And then we came back and they started developing. The long and short, the long and short of it is, I don't want to get too much into the development. I'm not a developer. I had no idea how to run a software company, let alone build a software. So I made lots of mistakes. All the mistakes that people warned me about, I made, like feature creep and like, focus and listening to people about specific things and losing sight of the MVP. So it was happening, and we actually were able to start using it. So here's the idea. I thought, a few things that in 2008, when I started this process it was 2011, I think, when we went to the Ukraine, and started actually developing. It was like, these mobile phones, these smartphones are only going to get better. These maps are only going to get better. Broadband's only going to get faster. So what if we could build a business management system that was on top of a geographic locating map system, right? So I can see the houses, I can see the trees. If we could draw pins on all the trees, and then instead of, one of my frustrations with running the business, like keeping track of what we'd done for people on what was frustrating, because it's like the way that traditional estimating worked was everything was by service and by client, and then the trees were like buried in the notes or listed in some way, but there was never a way to go back to them straight away. Like, you had to go look through the services and see which trees, and 3 red oaks, like maybe there's 5 red oaks in the property. Which ones were they? Like, that kind of thing and so I just kept seeing this system that organized everything like more like a hospital, like a patient record. So that instead of being about the service or the customer, it was about each tree, and then what had happened to each tree, what had been recommended, what had been noticed, images, and then what had been accepted by the customer, what had been completed, and all that kind of stuff.
It's a lot of detail.
There's a lot of detail.
Yeah. So did you do that? Was that out of necessity, you think, that you built that? Or is that just because your mind works that way? And like, you were just like, you're like, this is what I'm drawn to do. Or you're like, this is what I have to do.
I have to do this. Yeah. I could not stop thinking about it. I thought about it every day. And one of the reasons was having to, like, selling a job and then having to tell 6 different fucking people the same thing, right? I have to tell the customer about it as I'm writing the estimate. And then I've got to tell, and then when the job sells, and I've got to tell, then now the customer's calling into the office, and the office is like, looking it up, and it's just like this piece of paper, and it's very abstract. They're often don't have any tree knowledge. They're just like administrating it and doing logistics. And so they're trying to, there's the first like potential scramble is the customer and an office person are communicating about something that I wrote in great detail. And then it goes to a crew. And now that crew is being, if not being told by me, being told by the office, and then going out to the job. And now the customer is talking to the crew and interpreting this paper, right? I mean, 80% of the time it's fine. Not really a big deal. But there was all these times where it was like, oh my God, I am so tired of saying the same thing to
Well,
somebody
and it
who's
just saves you time,
talking
you
on
know?
this.
It's just like saves everybody time where you could do things that are either more enjoyable or more valuable. Yeah,
The repetition was like sandpaper on my face. Like I hated hearing myself say the same thing over and over again to different people.
totally.
Especially now that I had this idea of this digitalized mapping system that stored everything in this reference way, in this visual way. And I'll tell you, when we launched that and it started working, it was a game changer for us. Like all of a sudden, everybody was on the same page. Customer calls up, office like looks up the customer, they see the map, they see all the trees, they see all the services. It's like they're talking about exactly the same thing. And they have pictures, they can see like things about, very specific things about a tree. Now we could like put a picture on the estimate or on the tree, the estimate and the work order. And it has like, this is before you could just like get on your phone and take a picture and edit it. So we had to like embed a special editing tool into the image capture. And then you could like, X off a part of a branch instead of having to be on the job and point it out very specifically to the crew. They could actually just see it like, oh, okay, yeah, I see. That's close to the gutter or that's close to whatever, but they love that branch. So only take it to there. And just little things like that were just, they were just dreams.
Yeah. So we talked about a few things that you guys do really well. We've talked about some bottlenecks that you solved, like this one, right? Were there any bottlenecks that were particularly difficult to solve or maybe never fully got solved? Like what were some bottlenecks that stand out that, I don't know, that you just were constantly dealing with?
Hiring poorly. So continuously like pissing in the pool. And for a long time, I thought my picker was broken. I blamed people for being stupid. I blamed people for being a problem. It's fucking people. Before I had the realization that it was me, and it was a lack of integrity in articulating and clearly defining who it is we're looking for, like who we are and what are the qualities we're looking for in people. And so one of the first things I realized that helped through this was not hiring for skill anymore, but actually hiring for culture. Because I would always be desperate. We typically had throughout the business for the majority of the time we had a huge backlog. We had way more work than we could ever do. And so I created this pressure for myself that I need to hire. We needed to do more. And in doing that, I would be like presented with somebody who was years of experience. They were good at their job, like they were good they had the skills. And then we'd hire them and they'd get in there and there would be all kinds of problems with customers or other employees or with me. And it was just like gross. It was just uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, you spent so much time talking about them and to them and about them. And it was just brutal. So I learned that we really need to identify good culture fits and we can train anybody that's interested. And so that became a new focus. And we just got better and better at that. Like we started using a system called Traction, Gino Wickman, EOS. Have you heard of
EOS.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Traction is really helpful in focus and
My previous guest last week was an EOS coach, actually. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So establishing the values, like that value, the process of developing your, like calling out your values is gold and purpose. And then even more important than that, like that's one thing, but then to actually live in the company with those values to hire, manage, and fire by those values, that is like, that's renewable energy right there. It's a beautiful thing. But you have to,
Exciting.
I found out we actually have to follow it. We have to make it the most important thing. And like, so starting to get to really, and I struggle with this because I didn't want to be a cheesy corporate company that was just like the values, the values, the values, the values, the values. So we just made it important in a very grounded, authentic way.
Well, when they're real, it's easier to talk about them in a real way when you really
Yes.
feel it and you're connecting with your employees through those values and they can feel like, wow,
Yes.
this place is not bullshit. This is a real, like, I like him. He's the way he respects me, talks to me, cares about me. Oh, and then I'll definitely do that too for the people I work with. And yeah,
Yeah. So
I didn't mean to steal it from you. I want that.
yeah,
I love
I
it.
love
I
that,
want,
man. Yeah, you
yeah.
want that. You do want that.
Of course you
I
want
want
to.
that for
Yeah.
you.
I'm excited to, yeah, I've really been a one-man show forever. And this business that we're building now is going to be my first opportunity to truly scale and develop company culture. And I've given it quite a lot of thought and you're actually helping me think about it in a really productive way right now.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good. It was one of the greatest I think it was one of the greatest joys of having that business was moving from like these very limited, very like narrow focused ways of being in business and relating to it into these bigger, more effective systems and perspectives. So, and when you have these common languages inside the teams, it's a beautiful, one of my key people, she hated this word, but it creates a lot of synergy. So
Cool. So you sold that business.
sold that business. Yeah.
What's driving you today?
Well, it's been a little over 2 years, and you'd think I would have clarity by now. I do not. I've recently picked up. So one of the things that did happen with that software business was eventually my partner was like, "Hey, man, I can't keep pumping money into this." It was not a commercial success. I never focused on the right parts of it, and that authenticity and connection, relational style was not a great fit for trying to get subscribers to that business because I was always talking people out of it. As soon as they would say anything like, "Well, does it do this?" I'd be like, "Oh no, it's not for you then. It's not for you." Instead of, I was not a good salesman for that software. Even though for the tree company, it was absolutely the right tool. Yeah, it helped. I think it really helped us scale and it really helped us stand out from the competition. Now, 15 years later, you see almost all the industry softwares have a mapping component now. Whereas at the beginning, they would be like, no, we're not doing that. Are you crazy? So when he bailed out, I was like, well, I got to try to get this thing. I still want to get this thing going and get him his investment back at least. And so I took a coding boot camp course and learned to code in Ruby on Rails. And then I switched the system from Java to Ruby on Rails so that I could continue to build it. And so I did that for, I don't know, for a couple of years. And in that process, as I was trying to like get better at coding, I started a project from scratch to manage another passion of mine, which was like taking logs from the jobs and cutting them into lumber and then making furniture out of them. And I was curious about tracking that lumber. And there was no software out there that did that. And so I had the same vision of like, oh, it'd be cool to show on a map where the tree grew up. You could have pictures of the tree if you had them. You could have like the location. You could have a history. If it was an interesting history, you could talk about it. And then you could track that information through like down from the tree to the logs, and then from the logs to the individual slabs that were created, and then back into the furniture and have like a QR code on the furniture so you could like sit at a restaurant table and scan the QR code and then see the whole history of the wood. And so I built this software as like a practice project for being able to do the other software. And that one actually ended up going a lot better than my tree service software. because there's this urban lumber movement across the US, and it's just a really kind of fun, cool thing that people are doing. And I'd call around and say, hey, what are you guys using for tracking your lumber? They're like, fuck, man, I don't know. I don't know what I have. Some people will be like, oh, I got a spreadsheet. I'm like, is it current? No, it's not current. And so I started getting people to pilot this software, and they really liked it because it was a lot easier to introduce the wood and then follow it through the process and then know what you had in your inventory at the end of every day. So that started to pick up, and I don't know, within a few years, somebody approached me and I sold that software to
Cool.
a company that is still uses it. And what they're doing is aggregating all the businesses that use it across the country. They aggregate that data and then they sell the lumber on a market, like their own little marketplace. Anyway.
Cool.
So that got me interested in coding and building things. So just the last like 3 or 4 months, I've been tinkering around using, I love AI now because it basically codes for me. So I don't have to fumble around like I always did. It's a new confidence and a new speed. So I've been building apps from anything from like running app to music playlist transfer library I built for, so you could take like a Spotify playlist and transfer it to your Apple Music or vice versa, or YouTube or whatever. And then that is all practice for a system I've been thinking about in I guess maybe the AI security, it's more like the privacy space and the personal assistant space. So I think about social media and the massive influence it has at us as individuals, right? Like how much it steers us to buy certain things and read certain things and think certain things and not other things, and like create splits. Well, chatbots are going to be that exponentially more powerful and creepy slow and creepy effective because of the power of artificial intelligence, like its ability to slowly change somebody's mind or get somebody to think about something in a different way through, maybe opaque truths or facts or just straight up disinformation or just spinning things in a sensational way based on your personality profile, which you can pick up pretty quickly in chatting with you. And the vulnerability that we all have in trusting these chatbots right now, like you get on ChatGPT or Gemini 3 or whatever, Grok, and start talking to it. And it's like, well, maybe I'll just ask it about my personal relationship. And then all of a sudden it's your therapist and you're putting all this really personal information in there. That's not your information. Their information now. They can train models on, they can use to sell you stuff. They can use to
Best data
push
collection
agendas.
method that there's ever been.
Yeah, it's super scary to me when I think about it at scale. And so I think a lot about localized AI, open source models, LLMs, large language models, which are what chatbots use, that individual people actually have control over. So it doesn't ever go out to a cloud and get the code changed or the weights changed or the information that you're inferring the questions. Like you do, the models they're trained and then they do inference, right? So you ask a question and it takes that question and it runs it through its neural net and then it gives you a predictive response. So if that's never going to a cloud, if it's staying in your system, then there's a lot more sovereignty there, right? Currently, the models they're not super powerful when they're on your phone or on your computer. Like it takes quite a bit of compute to run large models, but that's changing. We've got quantization, like taking a big 200 billion parameter model and bringing it down to 7B or 1.5B or 3B or whatever, and running it on your phone. They maintain for certain operations, they're great. Of course, when you are running stuff on one of those and then you run something on ChatGPT 5.1 or Claude 4 or Opus 4.5 or something like that, it's going to be notably different. But over time, I think we're going to see localized models that are powerful enough and intelligent enough to do some pretty fancy deep shit locally. So what I'm getting at is I'm really curious about building a personal assistant that works with local models. The initial system will connect to cloud models just because got to get it going, and the local models aren't really strong enough yet. But we'll architect it so that you can use either, and then you build your own. Basically, you create your own world of information, and you use an agentics architecture to allow little, like smaller model, like different models to go out and interface with the world. So instead of trying to keep up with all of the different, look how complicated it is just with username and passwords and what counts you have and don't have and how many do you have? You have no idea. I have no idea. So to start putting this into a system that actually is managing it for you. And then when you ask, if I want to Google something, I ask my chatbot, I ask my system a question, it goes out anonymously in the world. So it's not bringing my IP address, it's not bringing my history. It goes out as an independent agent and finds the information I'm looking for and comes back with no trail to me and a lot more control over what information it picks up and where it goes. So that's the basic idea. There's also this whole component of like, what is truth? So the seed system, like the seed data in that system has to be some sort of atomic truth. So like I think about, because I want the AI to be relatively unbiased, and the biases it does have, I want it to have the biases based on my values and my purpose in life. Right.
Yeah.
And then creating a network so that Aaron and Jesse's sovereign systems can have a trust built between them, and it's dynamic. Like it can change based on, if Jesse starts sending me death threats, like it'll adjust itself, right? If Jesse starts sending me things that I'm like, that's just not true, like I know that's not true, it'll adjust. So anyway, it's a big
fascinating
thought experiment.
Yeah, I'm sure it sounds like it's probably got to be bending your mind a little bit. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Aaron Taddiken, entrepreneur, arborist, systems guy, software developer, now AI privacy advocate. And so Aaron, thanks so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. And we loved learning about you today and hearing your story. I'm sure there's a lot of good nuggets for everybody, including myself.
Yeah, it was fun. And I'll be curious and excited to see what you do here.
Well, we are excited. I mean, honestly, I thought we were going to talk more about systems today, but I like that we actually talked about people. In fact, like we are really focused on systems and removing those bottlenecks for people and those repetitive tasks that they don't like doing and helping them be more productive. And even though I thought that was what we were going to talk about, I do like that you brought it down to people, because at least for me, that really, like, I want to go into organizations and I want to help them with those things. I want to build relationships with them and work closely with them and create bonds and help them, help their business. And you can help their business by understanding it better and by them being transparent out what's going on. And so I think you're right in that, by the fact that we're going to take an authentic and like genuine approach to it, we will have those same positive kind of results, even though that's the driving factor is like just to, have genuine interactions with people. But I do think that ultimately that will have those results for us as well. And we'll be better capable of helping them solve the real problems because we'll be relating with their problems on a real personal level.
Yeah. And systems, I mean, the best systems, I think, remove the barriers for people to be in their genius, like doing the things they actually want to be doing. Right. And that's different for everybody. So it depends on the business, but yeah, I think the systems are absolutely critical. Like there was a lot of things I said about systems that they were about getting things out of the way so that we could do the things we love to do better.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I started this business, just because I saw the opportunity here, because I knew that as an entrepreneur, this is what I want, right? I want systems that are going to help me do the things that I'm excited to do, that I love to do, that I'm passionate about doing, and will remove the things that I find tedious and that really I'm not uniquely qualified to do, right? There are things that I'm uniquely qualified to do, and that are hard and that not a lot of people can do, but there's a ton of things that I end up doing on a day-to-day basis that, yeah, don't require those special skill sets that I think I have. And so, yeah, how do we get those out of people's way? And I think that is the thing that is amazing about this technology, AI, is that it is powerful. Like you said, you're now doing software development. It's allowing you to do things that you weren't capable of doing before. It is allowing you to and enjoy. It's more enjoyable and exciting. And yeah, I think there's so many applications. I mean, really, I think the applications, they're different, but they apply to almost every industry. There are things that it can do to, you know, to help people focus on those things that they're excited about and remove that tedium. And and it's going to be a wild ride navigating all the caveats in that.
Man, yeah, it's things are changing fast.
I mean, this is it. I mean, I look at this and it's like, yeah, like you said, this is a big change. It's coming quick.
Yep. All right, brother. Enjoy, and we'll stay in touch on this. I can't wait to see what you do.
Absolutely.
Hear
Thanks,
about it.
Aaron.
All right. Bye.
Talk to you later.